Fabric pots, plastic pots, old grow buckets or grow bags, like what's the best option when it comes to setting up a home garden? There are a few different ones and we're going to break it down for you guys today, and I'm going to tell you guys which one I'm never going to use again. So when it comes to setting up your home garden, guys, there are a lot of options that you'll be faced with. Should I start off with a fabric pot, a plastic pot, use an old bucket that I had, or some other type of container? And the truth is, there's no right or wrong answer for it, guys. It all comes down to personal preference. And I'm going to share my personal preference at the end of this episode and why I prefer these nice little plastic containers over anything else, whether it's a plastic grow bag or a fabric pot. Now I've just harvested a beautiful lady. This is that frozen juice. You iCan VIP Bean Club homies, you guys would know about that, but it got me wondering, why have I been using these plastic pots for such a long time instead of the fabric pots? Someone actually dropped a comment on one of my videos and said, Matt, why do you not use the fabric pots? I always see you using the plastic pots. And there are a few reasons for that. First off, the fabric pots for me, they just dry out too fast, guys. Where I'm at in Colorado, it's super dry. The RH is usually anywhere around 30%. And that's pretty low, really dry. So things dry out really quickly. So for me, the plastic pots actually help to maintain a little bit of that moisture and help things from drying out so fast. So for me, plastic pots, it's a win when it comes to that. That just means that I have to water a whole lot less frequently, and for me, not being in the garden every single day helps me to do some of the other stuff that I have to do, such as bringing you guys this awesome content. Now, how quickly your pots dry out can be directly impacted by your grow light intensity. If your grow lights are really intense and you got some really bright lights in your grow tent, then those pots might dry out a lot faster than a situation where the lights are a little bit less intense. Think of a plant sitting down on your windowsill versus a plant in your grow tent. The one that's just sitting down on the windowsill will dry out a lot less fast than the one that's in the grow tent. Now, before I actually harvested this lady, and when she was in flower, she was drinking a whole lot. And drinking a whole lot is something that you guys would probably experience with your ladies in veg or especially in flower. They just drink a whole lot. They need a lot more nutrients as they're putting on a lot more mass and building those buds that we love so much. But with more watering comes a lot more increased runoff. So in situations where you have a fabric pot, a lot of times you can just have some really messy water runoff. The water just runs straight out the sides of the fabric pots and messes up your entire grow room, and then you got to get a wet vac or a mop or just a few cloths and towels to dry everything up, because you don't want a bunch of water in the tent and your floor in the grow room anyway, right? So you got to clean that up. Now, if you got something like a flood tray or a little saucer like this, that can really help, but it can also cause a little bit of issues with those fabric pots where the bottom of the pot just stays really wet and moist and just doesn't dry out as nice as the plastic pots. And naturally, fabric is a type of material that will attract and hold on to some of those minerals, some of those nutrients, and some of those sediments that are actually trying to escape through that runoff process. Now, over time, you can see some white crusty rings on the outside of those fabric pots, which can impact root health and overall plant health. And plus, to avoid any issues later on, you got to clean those fabric pots, which we'll get into in a bit. Now, another reason why I've stopped using some of those fabric pots is that they're just a little bit harder to maneuver around the grow room. Some of these plastic pots are really small and they have that structural support. So the plastic is actually a strong structure, whereas the fabric is a lot less strong. So consider this being a fabric pot. It's just a lot easier to bend, fold, and all types of stuff. And when you're trying to move your plants around, having a little bit of structural support where you can just lift up your plant pot is really helpful. Now, for me, when it comes to moving plants around my grow space, I try to disturb the plant and the root zone as little as possible. So if I'm lifting up a fabric pot and I'm moving it around and the soil in there moves around a lot, that's something that just really bothers me. It may not actually do a whole lot, but it's just personally a little bit bothersome for me. Now, that being said, some of those cheaper fabric pots do not have handles where you can actually lift them up and move them around the grow space. Some of them do, and if those ones tend to be just a little bit more expensive. Now, I know I should probably have a fabric pot to show you guys some of the stuff that I'm talking about, but the truth is, I've given all of them away. Some of the iCanFAM, some of the ultimate iCanFAM VIPs, you guys would have gotten some of those fabric pots in the past. I'm talking some 420 Fastbuds one that were exclusively for autos. They had handles and they got little grommets for low stress training. So those were pretty cool. And speaking of the iCan VIP Bean Club, if you guys are not in the iCan VIP Bean Club yet, you're missing out. And some of these new drops are going out exclusively to iCan VIPs, but we got a drop which is coming out pretty soon, and that's for everyone. It's not going to be available only through the iCan VIP Bean Club, and it will not be going out to iCan VIP Bean Club members, and that is the Jelly Belly. So you guys look out for that. Whether you're an iCan VIP or not, you will want to look out for this, because it's going to be absolute fire. Now back to the pots, and another reason why I stopped using some of those fabric pots is that they're just a lot harder to clean. Yep, some people say you can just toss them into your washing machine and stuff like that, but personally, I don't want to throw those dirty plant pots with dirt and soil and stuff like that into my washing machine where I actually wash my clothes that I wear, you know? Personally, I don't want any skin problems. That being said, fabric pots are a little harder to clean, and even if you do throw them into your washing machine, sometimes they don't get all of the nutrient buildup in there out. Whereas if it's plastic, you can literally wash it out and wipe it down clean, and it comes like if it's brand new. So for me, I found that washing and sanitizing between grows when it comes to fabric pots is just a little bit harder than with the plastic pots. Now, taking it back to what I said at the beginning of the show, with those fabric pots, they actually dry out a lot faster. That can also impact the RH, or the relative humidity in your grow tent. Now, what I'm saying is that when it comes to the plastic pots, they actually hold that moisture a little bit better, hold it a little bit longer, and hold it a little bit more. Whereas the fabric pots, they dry out a lot faster. And that faster evaporation from the fabric pots can actually pull some more moisture from the air and potentially stress your plants out, or just cause the humidity to drop below those optimal levels. So if you're running a bunch of fabric pots and you're wondering why your RH is dropping so low, or you're having problems increasing that RH, maybe try swapping them out for plastic pots. It may help a little bit. And obviously things like cover crops, mulch, clovers, those things can also help a whole lot in maintaining your RH and just locking in a little bit more of that moisture. Now, another reason why personally I think the fabric pots suck is that they just don't last as long as some of these plastic pots. You guys know these plastic pots can pretty much last forever. As long as you keep them alive, they will last. They actually last so long that people say recycle them if you aren't using them, because they do not naturally degrade. You guys know plastic is not something that naturally degrades or is biodegradable. So in that sense, you will not have to replace these plastic pots as often as you will have to replace those fabric pots. And probably one of the biggest drawbacks for me when it comes to the fabric pots, and one of the biggest reasons that I use the plastic pots over the fabric pots, is that I don't need a whole lot of extra equipment. And when I say extra equipment, I mean things like catch trays, absorbent mats, risers, none of those things. You guys know when it comes to having fabric pots, risers can be really important and really useful so that you get even air circulation, especially on the bottom of that pot, you know, where the pot actually sits. But when it comes to the plastic pots, usually they have a little bit of a riser built in, a really small riser. You guys may be able to see it, but also if it sits directly onto some of these little drainers, then everything runs seamlessly, and I've had no issues with any water mess or just lack of oxygen. Now, when it comes to the plastic pots, there are drawbacks. Obviously, things can get root bound a whole lot quicker. There's a whole lot less oxygen, air circulation, and air penetration happening in here. There's also no air pruning. You guys know when it comes to fabric pots, once those roots actually hit the root walls of the fabric pot, it air prunes. With the plastic pots, there's no air pruning involved. It literally hits the wall and begins to circle, and that's how your plants can become root bound. So with the plastic pots, you do need to keep an eye to see when is the perfect time to transplant. And transplanting out of the plastic pots is a whole lot easier than transplanting out of the fabric pots. I've had plants literally succumb to transplant shock from transplanting out of fabric pots because those roots got so intertwined and so meshed into that fabric. So for me, when it comes to transplanting, it's always a whole lot easier just to squeeze around the sides of my plastic pot, grab it like that, and it just slips right out. Easy transplant, guys. You can't beat it. And for me, those are some of the main reasons why I use the plastic pots over the fabric pots, and probably will never go back to using a fabric pot again unless I absolutely really need to. Even using some of these buckets, old buckets that I have, is a whole lot better for me than using fabric pots. But drop it in the comments down below. Let me know what's the weirdest thing that you guys have used as a plant pot, but also what do you guys prefer when it comes to plastic versus fabric pots. I'm really interested to find out what you guys got to say. And don't forget, join the iCan VIP Bean Club if you want some of those exclusive genetics. Try the iCan Organics. Use the code icanthc on the bundle. That discount code also works on all the beans, so grab a discount. And also look out for that next drop. That Jelly Belly is going to be absolute fire, and you guys have been asking for it, and it's a fam. So look out for it because it's going to be dropping pretty soon. Now, if you guys want to find out more about growing that fire, check out any episode on screen right now, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, fam.